All right, week 12, college football breakdown here. Really interesting primetime battle in the Pac 12. We've got Utah traveling to Eugene and taking on Oregon. This line open. Oregon was a 2.5, 3-point favorite. Some injury news that we'll get into in a sec has completely flipped this line on its head. Utah now is a 2-point road favorite, and this total has crept down as well due to that same injury news, 260.5. Bo Nix, quarterback at Oregon. We saw him leave late last week against Washington. He came back in the game for the final drive. You know, there was an Oregon player that suspectedly, with some of his language, suggested that they were going to be without Bo Nix. Something's going on here to where the odds makers clearly feel as if Bo Nix is not going to play. The line has moved 5 points. The favorites have flipped. I know Bo Nix has had a really big year for Oregon. Very surprising to me, actually, because he was a very mediocre player at Auburn. I'd say that he's not the biggest reason, though, for their offensive success. They got very explosive running backs, multiple. They might have the best offensive line in college football. They've allowed just 1 sack all year, if that gives you an indication. We just haven't seen Ty Thompson, who would slide into that quarterback role if Nix were out. I mean, I know he was a 5-star guy. Something tells me that Thompson is not so far along in his development to where the 2 separate coaching staffs don't feel great about him leading their offense. So I know Utah is typically thought of as a team that's good in the trenches, good against the run. I mean, they're solid in both those areas defensively, but they're not game changing. I still think Oregon's going to be able to run the ball in this game because they can run the ball on anybody, basically. Good offensive lines travel. And when you have maybe the best in the country, even if Ty Thompson were to have to play, not the worst situation that you could have walked into. I do like Utah's offense, though. I think Cam Rising is a very efficient player. Led Utah to a Rose Bowl last year and is having a very similar type of season this year. Let's not forget, Utah is squarely in the Pac-12 race. I think a lot of people wrote them off after they lost that season opener in Gainesville, and then after they lost to UCLA. I mean, since they beat USC about a month ago, they've been red hot. They haven't lost since. So I do think very highly of this Utah team in general. I think the run game has regressed this year. It's still going to show up in some of their easier matchups, but I don't think Tavion Thomas is having the kind of 2022 season that we saw him have a year ago. That signals they might not be as strong up front as people just think when you see the Utah brand and you think of some of the teams that Kyle Whittingham has had here over these past 5 years or so. I don't love Oregon's defense. They really haven't found much off the edge since losing Kayvon Thibodeau last year. That's kind of been an area of concern for them. We saw Michael Penix throw all over that secondary last week, and certainly think Cam Rising would be able to do the same. Give Oregon credit. If you had to pick a strength out of their defense, it would be stopping the run. I don't think they're great in that area, but I also don't think Utah is particularly great running the football this year either. So suffice to say, really tough game to handicap, even here on Friday. Typically, as you get later in the week, start to get a better feel on some of these injury news. We don't have that right now. I think Bo Nix and his status is a complete unknown to me. Dan Lanning has been quiet. We've seen a huge market move that would indicate he wouldn't play. I don't think Oregon's backup quarterback situation is so bad to where, I mean, if this were to flip to like Utah -3, like if we were to see this line move even further in their direction, I might buy back on Oregon because I don't think Bo Nix is the most important component to the offense. I think those explosive running backs and then what they have up front, it's still going to translate well in this matchup. Thankfully, this is in that Pac-12 after dark window. See how Saturday goes. Check back in on the injury news. I'll say it once again. I mean, if Nix were to get ruled out and this were to move to anything like Utah -3, Utah -3.5, I actually would recommend buying back on Oregon. We'll just have to wait and see. The holidays are here. Head over to proud90.com and check out their holiday selection. Still over a month till Christmas, so plenty of time to get yourself, a friend, a family member, some unique but very comfortable golf apparel. Weather's obviously getting colder too. Proud 90's got a great selection of hoodies and quarter zips as well. We're all doing a lot of Christmas shopping. Save yourself some money. Use code Fordham at checkout for 15% off your order. The rest of the information will be in the description below.